Deepings Remember 1914-18 is a project to show the histories of the men that left Deeping for France in 1914 and what happened to them during those war years. We got together as a group because we wanted to somehow commemorate the First World War in the Deepings, and then of course when we did uncover this enormous amount of research, the challenge was then to think about the best way in which to present that information to the people of Deepings, and the best time to do that was over the Armistice weekend 1914, so that we can commemorate all of those people from the Deepings who went away to war in 1914. The main areas in the exhibition are the foyer area behind me, which shows the trench, the reconstruction of a trench with a periscope and items that you might typically have found in a trench, for example, a packet of cigarettes, a tin mug, photographs of a family and a trench map. They're also a collection of posters from the time of the First World War that have been put together by Greg Ford, and we've put those on display as well. Then the main part of the exhibition is the history of over 350 men and some women who were involved in the First World War, and that has come about as a result of the hard work and research of members of the group such as Joy Baxter, Mary Pendred, Liz Parkinson and Maggie Ashcroft, who have researched the histories of the men who went away to war, and we've presented these in large A2 posters which have given photographs of the men and of their homes, and sometimes of pictures from the countries in which they went away to war.
I'm Pauline Redshaw. I'm part of the Deepings group that have put together this exhibition, and we're very proud to have an original poppy from the 1920s. It was worn by this lady in this picture. Her name was Sarah, and she was a nursing sister at the Royal College Hospital in Chelsea. Sadly, her fiancé, who is in this picture too, was killed. She was invited to go to the opening and the unveiling of the cenotaph, which she was very proud to do, and she also attended the burial of the unknown warrior. And this all happened in 1920, so we're very proud to have that original poppy.
Today we've seen descendants coming to see the exhibition and residents of the Deepings, and also they've been able to talk to each other as well. And then for those not on A2 posters, we have big dossiers to present all of that information so that people can look through.
Philip was my mother's father, so I remember him obviously from a child. We used to spend holidays with him, as I think you did too.
I did, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I used to call him Grandad Bert. I was aware that he was in the First World War, but he never spoke of it. I think it was probably very traumatic, obviously. Once it's written down and it's on the internet now, it will never be forgotten, so...
Uncle Bert's wife was Auntie Ethel to me, but your grandma.
Yeah.
But she was a Lenton, so she is related to the suffragette.
Lillian Lenton.
Yeah.
Within the main hall there is also a reconstruction of a 1914 kitchen, so that people can see what life was like in Deeping during the First World War. And that coincides with the recipe book which we found, which was originally published by the Market Deeping Guild of Help in 1913. And so we reproduced the recipe book, but we wrote the stories of the individuals that had put the recipes into the first book in 1913. The Spalding Modellers Club have made models of all of the vintage transport that was used during the First World War, and they've also put together a layout of an airfield which is particularly pertinent to this area because we have discovered that there was an airfield actually in the hamlet of Frognall in Deepings St James during that time, and so there's one here for people to see as well. In fact, the airfield in Frognall was used by the Royal Defence Corps, and one of the members of the Royal Defence Corps at that time was a chap named Harris, who later became known as Bomber Harris in the Second World War. We also have items of shrapnel. We have a boot that was dug up in what is called the Iron Harvest at the Somme. We have a bayonet that was fitted to a rifle. Lots of really authentic items that people have kept and have been kind enough to loan us and put on exhibition. Then just behind us is a recruiting office. There's uniform for them to put on, and we've got a real live recruiting sergeant who actually does work as a recruiting sergeant in the 21st century, and he's there and putting people through their paces as well, with all of the items that you would have found at a recruiting station in 1914.
My name is Sergeant Alan Girvin. I am a recruiting sergeant within the British Armed Forces. I recruit for the Army. For the purpose of this exhibition, I am here as a First World War recruiting sergeant. I will tell the children where they are going, when they are going, but not when they're coming back. That is my role for this weekend.
We also have been lucky enough to have 7 pieces of work from the students of the Academy who have also researched their own families at the time of the First World War, and they've presented their work in an exhibition of its own as well, as part of what we've done here today. We also have afternoon teas here today, served by the Inner Wheel, and tomorrow they'll be served by the Deepings St James WI. They've decorated the room in true red, white and blue style, and they're playing music from the time of the First World War. Further on, we've got a room of artefacts where we have a medal collection, we have items such as a diary that was written by Sergeant Turner. He wrote that from March 1915 until his death in June 1915. Also his photograph and the dead man's penny that his family was presented with in the envelope that it came in. On Monday, the 1st of June, somebody else, not Sergeant Turner, wrote in his diary, "Sergeant Turner passed peacefully away this morning from wounds received faithfully and heroically, doing his duty for King and country." This diary was returned home to his relatives, and Kay Maggs of Deeping has transcribed the diary and lent it to us for this particular exhibition.
I'm Andrea Kirby, and Percy Goff was my grandfather, and we've come here to this fantastic exhibition to find out about all the other people who served in the First World War. My grandfather enlisted in 1915 and was taken prisoner in 1918 and was in a German prisoner of war camp for about 6 months until his release as the war finished. Apparently they were only allowed to send postcards if they were very well behaved. And there's a letter at the bottom sent from the King at the end after the war to give his thanks from the country and to find out all the information about him and what he did. It makes me very, very proud.
My name is John Neville Goff. I'm the son of Percy Goff, who served in the First World War. I always remember as a child he used to talk about being a prisoner of war, and it was a daily ration of beetroot which was tipped over the fence for them. And he said that's mainly with half a slice of bread, and the bread was very, very hard. And he said you couldn't break it with your hands, but he said we had to, because otherwise we wouldn't have survived. And I always remember he never ate beetroot at all for the rest of his life. Coming into this exhibition, you know, it just shows that all those soldiers in the First World War did terrific things, and he said, and I don't think we should ever forget them.
We had 300 children here from Deepings Primary and the Academy yesterday, and they were frankly mesmerised by aspects of the exhibition, and I really felt that they took away from it a real idea of what happened during the First World War. And what's been really gratifying is that some of those children have today brought their families back so that they also can have a look at the exhibition and share their enthusiasm for it. And from 10 o'clock this morning, when the doors have opened, we've been pretty much full on busy all day long. So we're really very delighted that the work that's gone into this on behalf of the people of the Deepings has been so well received.